We have come to the end of the third day of questioning of the undercover police manager, Bob Lambert, at the undercover policing inquiry. He's been questioned about the deployment of HN81, cover name Dave Hagen, codename Windmill Tilter, who was deployed initially into Fulham and moving against the monarchy class war, but then was moved to Brixton with a roving brief told to take on anti-police persona so he could find a group in the Brixton area, which was quite unusual. He ended up infiltrating Movement for Justice, but it seemed very clear that the reason for his deployment was in order that he could infiltrate the campaigns for justice for Stephen Lawrence around the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. I'm joined by Evelyn Lubbers of the Undercover Research Group and Zoe Young of Campaign Opposing Police Surveillance. What do you made of what we've heard from Bob Lambert over the last little while?
He seems to go back on things that he accepted yesterday and the day before. The fact that he had undercover officers spying on Black justice campaigns and specifically on the Stephen Lawrence Family Justice Campaign. He kept defending it and saying, like David Bob put it to him a few times at the end of the day, like there's far too much personal details about the family. They were not violent at all. Like he tried to make him accept that reporting was racist and was totally out of order. And Lambert just couldn't get himself to acknowledge that. He did his word spaghettis and denying it, and just said that today maybe you could say that, or he wouldn't even go as far as that. But he thought it was perfectly all right to do all that reporting.
Legitimate targeting is what he said.
Yes, and it's like, it's a shame that David Barr didn't go back. So yeah, but yesterday you acknowledged that it was too much. Like even within days, he's changing and he's just not willing to acknowledge that he did anything wrong.
Just quickly to say that there was a breach. Well, there wasn't a breach. The people will notice that the YouTube broadcast was suspended, and there was believed to be a breach. This was erroneous, and there was no breach. But the upshot of it was the last 15 minutes or so of the hearing were not broadcast. So that bit which everyone was just talking about, you won't have seen. But I think it was actually, some very good questioning by Barr, really drawing that out, because there is a huge disconnect between the reports from the time when we saw a lot of this report that Bob Lambert wrote about the Stephen Lawrence campaign and the connections to the left-wing movements, that it's very clear that they're targeting the Stephen Lawrence campaign, that's bragging about how Dave Hagen, cover name Dave Hagen, HN81, is in the heart of the campaign, at the forefront of the campaign, yet now saying, oh, no, he was targeting Movement for Justice and they just so happened to be interested in the Stephen Lawrence campaign. There's such a difference between these two positions.
Yeah, and what it comes down to is that he's lying.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. That's the upshot. That's the absolute upshot of it all.
And I won't complain about, the way he's talking, and I'm slowly losing the will to live sitting here. But it's just amazing why. I asked that before. Why can't a person like that, he's retired, he's got a few more years to live. Why can't he just come forward and say yes? Sure. But then there's the loyalty to his colleagues.
What have you made of it, Zoe?
Well, I missed the first couple of days, so I've landed in today. And
but in terms of what we've just heard over the last little bit.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm coming to. It's just wow. Like you say, life everybody would be so much easier if you could just tell the truth. But he can't see racism. I mean, that became really clear. He doesn't even. I mean, he does recognize.
I think he's just lying, isn't he? I mean,
I'm saying he can't see it. I mean, whether he really can't see it or he's pretending he can't see it, but the fact is that he had spent the entire day avoiding this very slow aging ninja sort of any actual accountability or response to any questions. I was sitting next to somebody who arrived at the inquiry for the first time today, who's really perceptive and was just like, how can you spend so much time and energy? He's working so hard. It's so hard to just deflect and avoid. And presumably, if he did dob his colleagues in, his former underlings, then they would have a lot of dirt on him, which they would turn around. And it feels like everyone's still trapped in some sort of mutual support, back scratching arrangement from 25 years ago that they kind of can't get out of. And so we're all sitting here, and how many lawyers have been in there today? You know, every lawyer under the sun are in there, and because so many different campaigns are affected by this guy, by the people under him.
Sure.
And yeah, just the amount of public money, because people cannot just fess up.
So just to recap, actually, what was asked, we started off with questions by David Barr around this meeting that took place, which was purportedly in Bob Lambert's garden. Bob Lambert's like, oh no, it wasn't in my garden. It was actually inside the building. It was inside my house. But it's a meeting that was set up. It turns out at the request of Detective Chief Inspector Black, between HN81, cover named Dave Hagan, and Richard Walton of the Stephen Lawrence Review Team, which was a group of officers who were working directly for the Commissioner to respond to the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. Now, this is highly significant, and what's important about it is that it shows that the SDS intelligence was being passed directly on to the section of the police that was seeking to defend the reputation of the Met Police at the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. It shows that in the midst of the time when the establishment decided that what was needed was truth and reconciliation about the murder of Stephen Lawrence and the bungled investigation into his murder, the police were using their resources they had failed to use in order to find the killers, in further defending their reputation and using the spy inside the Lawrence camp, though Lambert claimed that he wasn't a spy inside the Lawrence camp, yet we saw his writing from the time in those reports, which described him pretty much exactly as that, in order to strengthen the hand of the Met Police in their interactions with the inquiry, the inquiry of that time. I think it was entirely damning, yet somehow Lambert seemed to try and pass it off as like, no, this was legitimate police work that was useful.
It was like even worse, because that moment in time, the draft version of the Macpherson report was already finished, and it was totally clear that one of the conclusions was going to be that the Metropolitan Police was institutionally racist, and the police was like very, very worried about the response of the Black community to that, and how not just now it was like the reputation of the MPS, and what we heard today is not that the reports from HN81 about the Lawrence Justice Campaign were already passed on to Richard Walton, who was on that team. He had already seen that. So what happened in that garden was sort of a deeper conversation, as Lambert confided, about the sort of the mood and the what could be expected. So and this was all to sort of prevent that riots would happen, or so they said. But what if this would have become known? The fact that the Metropolitan Police was getting direct intelligence from undercovers, like in the justice campaigns, that would have sparked a riot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was an element to it as well where Lambert was sort of like overplaying the importance of this meeting in the minutes, in that file note to go with it, that it was fascinating and important that this meeting, that the SDS learned a lot from Walton, and that Walton would have learned a lot from them. And as pointed out, this is at a time when the commissioner's job was under threat, and the SDS was sort of able to position themselves as like essential to the commissioner for protecting his own reputation.
I think there's a missing word throughout this afternoon and in our conversation today already, which is media. You know, who was the customer for the information? You know, there were all these questions we've had about what was the legitimate policing purpose of finding out this information. Well, there wasn't one. Well, then why were they finding it out? And that wasn't answered. This was, as you say, about reputation management. This was about what information gets out to the wider community in London, particularly the Black community, and the media. How much of this information, in what form, by who, was going to which editors of which outlets. And, you know, we do know that traditionally, I mean, this is something that Peter Francis said, you know, 15 years ago nearly, that part of the purpose of having these spies in the family justice campaigns was to gather dirt, to be able to smear the families, to justify the police not investigating the deaths of their loved ones. So, you know, when you come to the Macpherson report, when you come to the findings of institutional racism, again, presumably the customer somewhere along the line is the mainstream media.
Yeah, certainly. And we were taken through a whole sequence of reports that Dave Hagan, HN81, filed about his involvement in the movement for justice. But what we saw in those reports was a huge amount of information about the behind-the-scenes activity that was happening inside the Stephen Lawrence campaign. And it was interesting that of the two of those reports that were cherry-picked to be included in that long-form report that Bob Lambert authored about the connections between the Stephen Lawrence campaign and left-wing groups. One included this piece of information that purportedly Doreen and Neville Lawrence were had separated secretly and were only staying together for the good of the campaign. And it was pointed out by Barr that the level to which there was reporting on the internal machinations of the family shows that the target never really was Movement for Justice. It was the Lawrence family. And even if they weren't actually successful in penetrating the Lawrence family in terms of the infiltration that they were pretending they had when it came to submitting internal reports to their superiors. And it's that disconnect really of like kind of trying to pretend now that, oh, they were never that interested in the Stephen Lawrence campaign at all. But at the time, they're putting in reports that they, bragging about how much information they had about them.
Yeah, there's this element of like selling the unit,
exactly.
selling the continued existence of the movement,
Yes.
because they got funded like on a year-by-year base, so they had to sort of frame themselves as extremely useful, which was of course a completely different goal as they have today, which is like, no, we were not racist, we were not sexist, we were not whatever, and that I think is where Lambert gets into sort of confused, because he's got too many objectives. Like he doesn't want to let down his friends, but he does pass the bucket sideways and down and upwards when it comes to people he doesn't want to defend. And he wants to show that they were useful back in the day. And then he's like very sort of like, like the times he's been saying, well, today, I
don't recall today.
I can't recall. He's got this weird sort of emphasis on today, which I always think like, okay, maybe tomorrow.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think the point is that should any further litigation come out of this, and he is it's requested that he give his memory at some other date, that he can make something different up. Because he couldn't recall on that particular day, but in the future he can recall.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
it's very definitive.
It's like, so he was like defending the SDS as it was functioning back in the day. Now he has to. He's reverting back to I can't recall because difficult questions, rather not answer them. Yeah, and then there is the. Like you said, that at the end, which has not been visible on YouTube, he said like it was perfect reporting. So there's so many different things he's saying.
Yeah. One of the things actually that came up at the end was we were shown extracts from a draft version of the 97-98 SDS annual report. And almost as an aside, Barr said, oh, this is the last annual report that the inquiry has managed to get hold of, and it's incomplete. Were there further annual reports? And Lambert can't even answer that. He has to say that he can't recall. And it just felt like this was just, he just, if he didn't have to volunteer some information, then he wasn't going to volunteer that information. And just be able to say, oh no, there weren't any more, or oh yes, there were, and you haven't found them. He wasn't going to say that. He was just going to say that he couldn't recall.
It was very amusing, sort of amusing, watching his face, kind of dealing with each question.
He laughed a lot.
Yeah, well, yeah, there were the smirks, but just seeing him, it was like he was going through multiple choice options. Is this a can't recall? Is this a not today? Or is this like I forgive me, something else? And it's the slowness. I mean, it's been suggested a previous day to watch it on double speed, and I would say if you can just have a listen to him, just to get a sense of the way that these guys operate, because you really saw why he was someone who became in charge of the unit. You could see, he was working today. He was dredging up all his old skills from 25 years ago and putting them to work again. But he's an old man now, and it was slow, and you could kind of see it happening in real time at times. And it was kind of painful, but kind of.
Yeah, but there's also this bit that the old man thing is is a bit of an act.
A lot of an act, Yeah.
And he pulls it whenever he needs it. What I did want to say is about the annual reports. And they were paid by the Home Office for quite a long time, and then for that they had to submit an annual report. That's what, and that is their PR piece every year. But at a certain point, the paying of the SDS was moved to the Metropolitan Police themselves. So I don't have the years right in my head, but it might be that there were no annual reports after that because they didn't need to.
Yeah, that's definitely our understanding. But the point is that Lambert couldn't even bring himself to say anything like that. It was just like, oh, I can't remember.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to explain.
Yeah. I mean, it's And I mean, what we saw in that annual report was again like pretending that somehow Dave Hagan had like the main line on the Lawrence family campaign, which was just nonsense. We've been told tomorrow we'll be starting early. It'll be starting at 9:30, and we'll be running late, at least till 5:30. At the end of today's hearing, John Mitting said this was so that we can make sure that the evidence from Bob Lambert can be completed in total tomorrow. What he should have said was because of all your bloody time wasting, Bob.
You have to sort of read between the lines.
Yes, quite.
Mitting. That's what he said.
Basically. Yeah, absolutely.
And then Mitting is going to come back to Lambert to ask the question again. Ask him to tell the truth
about Jenna.
Yeah, he said that at the end of the evidence. Lambert would have had enough time to reconsider whether for once he's going to give a real answer. But tomorrow so it's only the morning that we'll have Lambert, because in the afternoon we'll have Webb.
Yes, Webb, who's been mentioned a number of times over the last few days, and certainly plenty in previous phases of the inquiry. Do you want to say anything about Webb, or should we save that till tomorrow?
No, let's save
that till tomorrow. Okay. Is there anything else either of you'd like to add?
No.
It's good to be back.
Really?
Well, I think it's a lot better being here than trying to listen on the YouTube or even the webinar for call participants, because both of them are just not reliable. And also you pick up so much more just from being able to see both the judge and the witness at the same time, and have the chats in between and chat to lawyers, etc. No media here, no mainstream media as usual. Funny. Maybe if they were, maybe we could look more into the role of the media and what was happening back then, how the SDS was relating to that, where their intelligence was going. But we have our media here.
We have ourselves,
Tom, we have ourselves.
DIY,
same as it ever was. So support Tom, like and share. Please donate and come along, come down, and you too could be.
Yes, you really could.
Piggy in the middle like me here.
Yes. There was one comment on the Instagram. Sorry, excuse me. I have to go and look at it over here. Owning up to being a sexual abuser is not something scumbag Lambert is going to do. Yeah, I think that's very true. I think Lambert has got a lot of things that he could be admitting to, which he isn't. I apologize for anybody who had been following it on TikTok in the past. I'm not able to stream on TikTok. I had terrible trouble with the sound, so it's just on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter at the moment. Hopefully I'll get TikTok sorted again tomorrow, but bear with me. All right. Thanks
Any
for joining
tech
us.
support as well, help sharing the streams onto other channels. All this is good.
That would be great. Yeah. Thanks for joining. We'll see you all